Hello, everyone. I'm Jim Posner, and this is the Don't Panic Project. We provide conversations to help empower, inspire, and educate people suffering from stress, anxiety, and depression. Today's guest is Jess Grippo. After a winding journey, Jess has made a non-traditional career for herself as a dancer, writer, and life coach. Jess is someone who, in her own words, uses dance to help her make sense of things, to help her preserve her sense of self, and to survive. So welcome to the Don't Panic Project, Jess.
Thank you, Jim. Great to be here.
All right. So listen, if you could actually start out by telling us a little bit about that winding journey that I just mentioned. So, how long have you been dancing, and just tell us about the journey.
Yeah. Well, I grew up dancing. I was a ballerina. I did the whole jazz tap ballet thing as a kid, and then got serious about ballet in my teenage years. And that world at the time was so strict and competitive, and I was constantly forcing myself into these ideals with my weight, with the way that a ballerina was supposed to look and be. And by the time I was 19, it was a combination of feeling just burnt out from that whole world and feeling like there was a part of me that wanted to do something beyond just ballet. And there was also a mix of some pressure from my parents to go to real college and get an education and, do something quote unquote normal, as my mom might say. So I ended up quitting ballet, which for me at the time, now looking back, I'm like, why didn't I just dance in another way? But at the time it was ballet or die. It was that world was so if you don't achieve this ideal, you might as well quit because there's nothing else that's going to be as good. And so I just left dance. I went to college. I studied psychology and women's studies and sociology, all things that a lot of people who don't know what they want to do with their lives tend to study, particular psychology. And I knew I wanted to help people. And so going through college, I ended up afterwards connecting with a woman who worked as a holistic health coach for women's health issues. And I was kind of I had polycystic ovarian syndrome, which I was diagnosed with around 18. And I just never got my period naturally. And I'm just going to go there with the period stuff. I hope you don't mind. And so for years, I was just medicating it with a birth control pill because that's what my doctor had said to do. And I just didn't know any better. And then at 23 years old, I started to kind of be I feel depressed. I'm not inspired or creating the way that I used to. And on top of it, I wasn't dancing too, which I think dance for me kind of even if I was a little bit depressed or whatever, it masked that because it helped me to just be in my body a little bit. But coming out of college and going through college and just feeling like it was all a struggle, I finally was there has to be another way. And then I met this woman, Elisa Vitti, and working with her helped me to heal what was going on in my body, get off of the birth control pill, find my own natural flow. And it was huge for me. And so that was kind of that was a turning point on the winding journey. And then of course I went down that journey, and I loved being in that world. I ended up getting certified as a holistic health coach. And I did that for years. And then years later, there was also something, I still wasn't dancing though. Here and there I might at karaoke, freak out and all that jazz or whatever it was. But dance was no longer a part of my life. And that was the other turning point when I realized, okay, well, I've gotten myself on this path where I'm much healthier in my body. I'm feeling less depressed. I am helping people, all things that I wanted to do, yet there was still this feeling of something was missing. And so that initiated my journey back into dance.
So how did you get back into dance? What was that moment that pushed you back in?
Well, I think it was a combination of moments, it was those moments at karaoke where I was just dancing for my life to like Lady Gaga or to all that jazz.
Right.
And like seeing on Facebook friends who I used to dance with still dancing and just feeling jealous and sad. And, you know, it was all these like little things that kept building up. And then one night I couldn't take it anymore. And I was like, I'm just gonna dance. I'm going to dance here in my apartment and I'm going to record it. Cause I'm very much a dancer and also a performer. And I wanted to just make something. I wanted to be creative again. And so I filmed myself doing all that jazz actually. And that was the first video that I put up on YouTube anonymously at the time because I didn't want anybody to know I was doing this, but I still wanted that sense of like expression. And then later I continued. I started just making dance videos in my apartment. Eventually I did it like in the park, in the rain, and these moments. And sometimes I would like find strangers and dance with them and make a video with them. Or it became this, this creative outlet for me. So, I mean, I knew it was impactful at the time. And like now looking back, I'm like, wow, I'm so happy that I went that direction because it led me down this other path that I'm currently on. And for me, it was a much better alternative than going into a classroom setting again, because the dance classroom was where all of the negative body image and competition and stress and, you know, like this kind of warped sense of myself came from. So I knew that I didn't want to go back in that direction, at least not right away. I needed to find out who I was as a dancer first, and dance videos were the way that I did that.
So there must have been, as you said, a lot of fear hitting, you know, that initial upload, the first time you uploaded the random video. But what was it like after you finally did upload it and you started to get some positive feedback?
Well, it was very scary to do so. The benefits of an anonymous YouTube channel is that
it was anonymous. Okay, I'm sorry. I missed it.
But at the anonymous point, it was fine because like there was hardly really anyone seeing it, and I didn't have any negative comments at the time. Now I do. Now it's a whole other conversation. We can talk about negative comments on YouTube, but it was freeing at the same time. And then I think maybe I needed to do it anonymously for a while to build up that muscle and to get comfortable sharing. And then the Dance in the Rain video that I made in Prospect Park was the first one that I uploaded to Facebook. And that was also terrifying. And it was terrifying for me because I was like, people are going to be like, who does this girl think she is? Why is she posting videos of herself dancing? Who cares? And isn't she supposed to be a health coach? Isn't this unprofessional that she's just dancing around in the rain? Like those are the kind of voices that were going through my head at the time. And there was something deeper in me that was like, I knew I needed to do it for my soul in some way, whatever that was. And I did. And then I did get feedback, and people would say like, wow, this inspired me to dance today. I haven't danced in so long, or it just brought me joy seeing you. I started to see, helping people doesn't only have to look like me helping you with, you know, your diet or your health problems or like in that kind of direct way. Helping people could also look like sharing a dance with them and letting the inspiration just kind of be passed around.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So I actually want to dial it way back. So you did mention that you suffered through some depression, some anxiety. Now, way back when you were originally dancing, you were very much a perfectionist. Mm-hmm. So did that maybe contribute to some of the depression, you think?
You know, it's a good question.
Originally, it just, trying to be the perfect ballerina and trying to become a working ballerina, a professional ballet dancer. Mm-hmm. Do you think that, I've seen videos of you from when you were younger that or blog posts about, you know, how you really were the perfectionist and you had to try to get down to this certain weight and you'd practice standing on one, on one toe, or, whatever the terminology is in dance. I don't know. But do you think that created some of that depression?
I think it contributed to it. I think, and I'd be curious to hear your opinion on this too, on this connection in general with depression. But I feel like depression kind of, it comes from a multitude of things. So it's like, I feel like, there was like, I think like all teenagers have some level of stress and maybe family dysfunction going on that weighs on them. And I was an only child. And I think that, so being an only child also, there was this pressure to want to do things the best and make my parents proud, or like, solve all their problems.
Right. Right.
Which, and so the perfectionism was kind of like almost a symptom of that as well. And I just happened to find ballet, which is like a perfectionist's dream.
Right.
You really got to like really test out your perfectionism there. But, and it still creeps in, and the depression creeps in sometimes too. And this is the thing. It's not like, and then I discovered dance and it was happily ever after and everything was great. I think for me, through dance, through my spirituality, through a lot of different angles of healing that I've explored over the years, it's given me tools to know myself better. And through knowing myself better, I can then, I know what to do when those kinds of things creep in, Yeah.
So that's a really powerful realization, to have an understanding of when those feelings are creeping in, and to also know how to confront them or be with them, and in order to move through them. So very, very powerful tool. So I've also heard you say that, now even dancing kind of helps you move through and work through anxiety. So let me ask you, this is the Don't Panic Project, and we're trying to give people solutions to their own stress and anxiety. So maybe just tell us, what types of specific anxiety are you feeling, and what actually goes on in your body when you're feeling it, and then how does the dancing just help you move through it? If you could kind of maybe describe a bit of the process.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I can give you an example. Yesterday, actually, it's very fresh. I was performing in the evening. It was a 7 p.m. show. I was doing a spot at a friend's comedy variety show. And it was like a new thing that I'm venturing into, dance comedy. And I was super excited, but also really nervous. And so I had most of the day free, which is also like, I think, a recipe for anxiety, because I wasn't busy. There wasn't a lot of things going on that were keeping me distracted in a way. So I went to the gym, and then I, made lunch, and then like I kept being like the thoughts, for me, like anxiety shows up. It's like, there's this kind of feeling, and it's like very like outside of my body, where I'm like, and like the forward thinking, like, what's going to happen? What should I say? Is this going to be good? I don't know. What if this person's there? Blah, 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 blah. Right. And like, it's like the voices in my head kind of take over.
Right.
And then I think it's like, I feel like it's the thoughts. This is just my, own opinion on it. Like, I feel like it's like my thoughts then trigger a feeling in my body that is that like, anxious energy. Right. And so
absolutely,
that's kind of how I experienced it. And what I did eventually, and I'm like, sometimes I'm like, duh, Jess, you got to take your own medicine with the dance. Why do I, like I forget. I'm like, but I went to the gym, like I was a little bit physical, but then later in the afternoon, I was like, I put on music in my apartment, and I just like danced it out. I tried to get out of my head. I was just like trying to feel the music, right? Music, I think, really helps too. I think with with anxiety as well. It just like, I don't know, it was somehow gave my body permission to like move some of it through me. And then a little bit later too, I was at a restaurant waiting to, I was a little bit early for the show. And so I'm like, and then I went to the bathroom and I was like, oh, there's a song playing in the bathroom. And I was like, let me set up my camera. And I like made a dance video in the bathroom, just something like kind of goofy. But that in itself was also really helpful for the anxiety in a way, you know?
Yeah.
I wasn't nervous. Like there was still some nerves like going on for the show, but it felt like, I don't know, I just got back to me in a way, and it helped.
So you were feeling the anxiety about the performance that you were going to be doing.
Yeah.
Primarily, right? Okay. And the dancing just helps you get it out. Makes perfect sense. I also love the way you described the kind of process of your thoughts then kind of manifesting in the body, and then they become, you know, you get this anxious feelings in your body. And that is something I talk about a lot, how anxiety and stress, they really can manifest in the body, and they manifest, you know, in different people in different ways, but they can manifest as kind of neck pain or shoulder pain or back pain, or, you know, whatever it is. People grind their teeth, you know, when they have stress and anxiety. And by bringing some awareness into the body, you can kind of release that. So, I mean, it seems like that's what you're really doing through your dance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, awesome. That's a great point. There's so many different ways that it can manifest, you know, it's like different for everyone.
Absolutely. I mean,
digestively too. Like I know for me, like digestively, like I'll get an upset stomach, or, you know, things will like be like all like weird in my belly. And, you know, like our stomach, our gut has nerves in it. It's like the second brain.
I've
right? So
heard
like,
that. I've seen that. Yeah, it's really interesting how the body can react. Yeah, so I like you said, you were just like, you were in the bathroom and you were just like, I'm going to dance it out. And this is a card that Jess gave out over. I met Jess a couple of weeks ago actually at an event, and there were probably about 300 or 400 people there. And Jess comes in, and the event coordinator hired her basically to come in and get everybody moving and loose before the event starts, and just gets up there and kind of guides everybody through these, you know, what, five or 10 minutes of these little dance moves. And, you know, she's just got an infectious smile and way about her. So, you know, like within 10 minutes, everybody's just loose and relaxed and ready to have a really good time. So that's how I was introduced to Jess. And then I found out a little bit more about her, and I thought her story was really pretty interesting and would be a great fit for the Don't Panic project. So can you tell us what you're doing now with You Can Dance Again, and you help other people?
Sure.
Yeah, what's the process?
Yeah, so, well, there's kind of, there's like two branches of my work right now. One is the more dance focused one, and the other one is the more coaching focused one, with the dance of course included. But the coaching one is for people who might not necessarily identify as a dancer, but they want to access more of their creativity and their self-expression, and to use dance and movement and their body as a tool in their own transformation. And then on the dance side of it, my You Can Dance Again program is for people who want to get back into dance in their own way, in their body exactly as it is right now, without having to change anything, and as a way to get in touch with their creativity and their self-expression. And with the dance program, I mean, people experience a lot of changes in their life as well, you know, and they get to be part of this amazing dance group. And we do lots of creative, community-oriented things together.
So can you tell us about one of your favorite recent projects that you've done?
Yeah, sure. Where do I start? I would say, well, one of my favorite things, so last week actually, I hosted a daily dance break series. And so I would go on Facebook Live every day at a set time, and people knew about it. And there would be a different prompt or a theme that I would share and say a few words on. And then I would put on some music and guide everyone through a dance break. And the idea is that, like, some people were joining from, like, they're like, you know how like offices now have a breastfeeding room or a wellness room or whatever.
Yeah.
So, like, there would be women who would be like escaping into that room just to do the dance break with me at 12:30.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Or just, you know, kind of like in these, wherever they found themselves joining in and dancing. And I switched to Instagram Live halfway through, which I liked a lot better, by the way. Kind of it's a long story with music copyrights and stuff. And then on Instagram, and then we were, I think it was the last day, and there was a group on, and now there's this feature on Instagram Live where you can share the screen and you can see someone else come up live. And so I asked if anybody wanted to like share more about their experience. And this woman who I've actually known for years from the health world, like popped back in and started dancing again. And she was just like, she had been stuck in her head, anxious, like going through all this stuff. And she was just like, I tried dancing on my own, but like when I joined this dance break, even though I couldn't see all the other people dancing, like I knew that I wasn't alone. And there was this sense of being connected and part of a community and being guided that gave me permission to really just get out of my head and get in my body. And she was also I call us recovering ballerinas. She's also a recovering ballerina. So she was like on her own, she was still stuck in, like, she just started dancing again. So she was still stuck in that idea that like, it has to be perfect. I have to point my feet. I have to do all these things. But there was something about this group focus that allowed her that permission to just release. And that was like the highlight of my week, just hearing that story. And
that's beautiful.
Yeah, it was a really fun experience.
You know, it sounds like you're really just helping people get out of their comfort zone and get out of that bubble a little bit. And that's a lot of people are afraid to do that. And you know, so anything that can help people move through that is really, really valuable. And you know, to viewers here that don't know Jess, and hopefully after this you will look her up, she will break out and dance in a store and you know, or in the subway and film it. And again, her energy is really infectious, and everybody around her instantly, you can see them start to smile and kind of light up. And so it's really, really powerful. So
thanks, Jim.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Do you dance?
Not that much. I should dance a little more, I think. My wife would love it if I danced more. So something I will work on, becoming more comfortable with in the future. Yeah, it's funny. Definitely always a little self-conscious about dancing.
Totally.
But
yeah, I hear you. I think that comes up a lot for people. I mean, I've in asking a lot of people to dance with me over the years, I've experienced a lot of rejection. You know, like when you're like
right.
holding a dance with me sign somewhere in like the airport or on the street, and people are like, no, I'm like, no, I can't dance. And like, so I know it's not always easy. And there is this level of like self-consciousness that can come in that can stop us.
Yeah. I mean, also, honestly, I feel like I don't have that many opportunities really to dance a whole lot. You know, I'm not going to be breaking it out in the supermarket necessarily. Although if I saw you, and I would break it out with you. But
well, you know what? If you want, this is just a suggestion, but maybe just playing music like when your wife gets home and just being like, hey babe, let's dance. And then just like in the privacy of your home where, you know, it's something where you can just like experiment with, because that, you know, I didn't just start dancing in supermarkets too, by the way. Like,
right.
Got to start somewhere. And it could even be like, for me, one of the greatest things about dance is the connection piece. And so it can be a really beautiful way to just connect with people. So if you think of it that way, that it's like, this is an act of connecting with my wife, maybe it'll help ease some of that.
You know, it's something I should absolutely explore. And I know my wife would be very happy if I danced with her more, no doubt. So can you describe maybe a couple of awkward moments from dancing in public, or when you asked somebody to dance and they said no, or just like, what was the most awkward moment? And, you know, again, a lot of the reason I'm asking this question is because I teach mindfulness, you know, and mindfulness is just another term for awareness. So by like listening to your story, we're bringing awareness to something, and I'm curious how the story is going to play out. So we'll come back to that awareness in a moment. But so, yeah, tell us if you could, you know, some of the more awkward moments.
Well, I guess my mind first goes to, so I have this dance with me sign that I've taken around places, and I created it in the airport. There's a YouTube video on it actually. And there was like, I had a layover and I just decided to like write down the piano and I sat to him. And I stood there for like, I want to say like a solid 20 minutes.
Jess, one sec. You know, what did you write on the sign? I'm sorry, we broke up a tiny bit right when you were saying it.
It said "Dance with me."
Dance with you, and you wrote that on a sign in an airport.
A piece of paper in the airport. There was a guy playing piano in the lobby, and I just stood next to him and I held the sign. And I put my like camera. I think it was on my laptop. I just put the recording thing on my laptop. I set it up, and I was like, "Let me just do an experiment." And so I stood there, and I stood there, and I stood there for like 15 minutes, 20 minutes, maybe.
Can I ask you, were you scared when you were holding that sign up?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, okay.
I was terrified. I was like, it was like that feeling of fear and excitement at the same time, because I was like, this is fun, this is different, this is pushing me out of my comfort zone, because I could have easily just sat there in the lobby and like typed something on my computer.
Yeah, and the reason I asked that question again is I want to bring awareness, so people that are listening that might have, you know, some social anxiety or fear or stress about stepping out of their comfort zone can just, you know, understand that, hey, everybody feels that way. So continue.
Yeah, I mean, it was literally, and then like that's like the rejection, you know, because like people would just like, some of them would just like walk by and not even blink an eye. Some of them would walk by and like laugh a little bit or whatever it was. And like a couple of times if someone like lingered a little bit, I would be like, oh, do you want to dance with me? And they'd be like, no, not right now, thanks. Or like whatever it was. Like there's a lot of like, or like, are you crazy? Or like, you know, like different reactions that you would get from people. And then I just sat down and I kept the sign like against the back of the laptop thing just to like leave it there. And then I just started doing work and I was like, all right, whatever. And then a few minutes later, a couple of people, one at a time, came back and they were like, hey, I worked down the thing. I saw you there. Can I dance with you? I'm on my break. And I'm like, yeah. So like it's two people who worked in the airport that actually came back and wanted to dance with me, and then we danced. But yeah, I've been through many moments of that, of just kind of like feeling like I'm putting myself out there and waiting and like,
right. You know, it's, you hear the term face your fears and the fears will go away, but I don't know if the fear ever really does go away. But you know what? I just think it's so important that you've taken that step to step outside of your comfort zone, and that's how we grow. That's if you think about it, that's the only way we can grow, is to just do something that makes you uncomfortable.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Think about it. By definition, if you are not doing something that makes you a little bit uncomfortable, you're not going to grow. You're not going to, you know, you're not going to be better than you were, you know, the day before. So,
and I love that. And, you know, I just want to add to that, because it's like if you're not doing like, and it's about the little steps, right? So 10 years ago, my edge, my comfort level was sitting in a room one-on-one with someone, being their health coach. And I was so scared in the beginning when I first started coaching that I was like, what if they ask me a question and I don't know the answer? What if this happens? What if that happens? And I was so nervous, but I started doing it anyway, right?
Yeah.
And the anxiety came when I was leading my own creativity workshops, and I had a room of 10 people who were there, and I was terrified of that. And then, so it's like, so now I go into a coaching session and I'm not, maybe if it's like a new person, there's a little bit of that anxiety or like, like healthy nervousness that comes in, but so different from 10 years ago. Right.
Yeah.
So it's like, now my anxiety comes when I'm standing in front of a room of hundreds of people, or when I'm getting on stage at a comedy show for the first time, or like, so it's like 10 years later, the fear is still there, but it's like, as I expand as a person and an artist, like it's like, but back then, 10 years ago, like if I would have tried to do the things I'm doing now, I would have just shut myself down completely, because I had no, you know what I mean? Like I wasn't ready at all for it. So it's like, I think the key is like being real with what with what going beyond your comfort level is. Like, what's your edge right now? What's the little step that you need to take that feels really scary, but the more you do it, it's going to take you to the next place and the next place.
Yeah. And those people in the airport, I just have to bring this up also, that kept walking by or maybe looked at you like you're a little bit, this woman's a little bit crazy or whatever. A lot of those people, you don't know why they're walking by. They maybe they don't think you're crazy. Maybe they think you're awesome, but they don't have time to stop and dance with you. It's what we make up all these stories about why people aren't stopping, or what people think about us, or whatever the case may be. And we do that to ourselves. So it's something to really be aware of, that most times people aren't thinking about us or judging us necessarily, or if they are, then they're not worth our time anyway. But there's myriad reasons that people might react in a certain way. And a lot of the times it has nothing to do actually with us, but we always tend to make it about us. So, no caught
up in their own anxiety and worries about themselves. So
yeah. And, even to touch on your point about how, 10 years ago, you might've been more anxious about meeting with somebody, or now you're anxious when you're in front of hundreds of people, but obviously you've grown. But I'll tell you something. I just gave a presentation about 3 weeks ago, and it's the same presentation I've given dozens of times. It's this intro to mindfulness presentation. I gave it to 200 parents at a school, and I just didn't feel like it went well. I don't know, but I literally gave the same presentation to 200 people a week before, where I felt like it went really, really well. And I got a lot of really good feedback. It just was one of those nights where I felt off for some reason. I was like a little bit jittery. I don't know what was going on. I don't know why, but it's just all part of growing, and you just have to chalk it up to that and move on. And sometimes it's hard to move on. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. I've totally bombed before. Dance performance settings and in like speaking kind of things. If you haven't seen it yet, The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, this new series I think it's on Amazon Prime, and she's basically a 1950s housewife who becomes a comedian, and she's like amazing and hilarious. And then there's this one night where she bombs and she just wants to like quit, and her manager is just like, no, it's just part of the thing. Like, okay, you bombed, so what? Like it's fun, and it's like, I loved hearing that. I feel like it helps normalize it. It's like, we're not always
again, that's how we grow, right? We step outside of our comfort zone. We fail. We pick ourselves back up. And that's what you have to do. So,
even though you felt like it didn't go well, I'm sure out of those 200 people, there were a lot of people who really got value from it. And,
Yeah, I got some good feedback. You know what? I got asked a couple of questions that I kind of floundered a little bit on. didn't answer as confidently, if, whatever. They were a little bit of curveball questions. Quite frankly, I didn't understand one question. It's just one, and then the stories start to go in my head. I'm like, is it me? Whatever. So it's just what we do, and you just have to be aware and kind of able to move on. And listen, I haven't obviously moved on. I'm sitting here kind of obsessing about it. So, but whatever. That was a couple of weeks ago, and
I think you're doing great work, and you're showing up still, and you're, I think that's huge, just showing up and being willing to put yourself out there. So many people aren't doing that or are scared to, and hopefully by hearing this, they'll be more encouraged to.
Hey, that's the point of this whole series, the Don't Panic Project. I'm really trying to bring awareness to people that, hey, we all have these feelings. Everybody's going through their own stuff. And hey, a lot of people, it really obviously is extremely heavy weight for them, and they have a lot of difficulty managing. And I'm just trying to show them that everybody has similar issues, and you can fight through it. Well, listen, I don't want to say everybody has similar issues. I mean, some people have severe problems with wherever they're living, or poverty, things that. But now we're getting into other topics of conversation. But I think you understand what I mean. So
yeah, and I think we usually tend to, in my experience, it's like I tend to attract the people who need my support. You know what I mean? Who they're going to learn something from my journey because it's aligned with theirs, versus trying to help everyone, which I definitely have gone through moments of that. We're all not meant to help every single person.
Right.
And there are other people who can help other people in different, groups or whatever it is. But it's like, I think we do tend to, people who are on a similar journey for whatever reason, not that they have to be the same exact story, but.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So Jess, it seems like we're running a little short on time here. So can you tell us what projects you might have coming up, or anything that you're working on right now, and where people can find you?
Yeah, I guess the best place to find me is on Instagram at Jess Grippo. I'm going to be doing more live dance breaks there, and that's where I post most of my dance videos and things like that. And connect with me there, and there's a link there that has details on other programs and dance breaks you can download.
Awesome. And I'll put a link on the bottom of this on YouTube where people can reach you. And hey, I just want to thank all the viewers and listeners for tuning into this edition of the Don't Panic Project. You can find more great conversations at www.thedon'tpanicproject.com or on our YouTube channel. And now you can also listen to us on iTunes. My name is Jim Posner. I work with smart, forward-thinking individuals, corporations, schools, and athletes to help them harness the power of mindfulness to achieve peak performance and manage stress. See you next time on the Don't Panic Project. Thank you.